I didn't do it on purpose.
I'm not angry from that. You know I'm angry from what?
From what?
Shut your phone on my face. Why?
I didn't throw it in your face.
No. No, you do that. You did that.
Mido meets Debbie's son. Mallorie drops the prenup, and Shea's daughters question his will. Phil Pulse. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Phil Pulse. Today, we have a packed 90-day fiancé update because several couples are facing some very serious conversations right before their weddings. Debbie and Mido are getting closer and closer to their wedding day, but things almost fall apart when Debbie makes it clear that she does not want to get married unless her son can be there. Then, Mido finally meets Debbie's son Kaden, and their conversation becomes much more serious than a simple introduction. Kaden wants to understand Mido's plans for the future, especially when it comes to supporting Debbie. Meanwhile, Mallorie and Rash are facing another major disagreement about having children, and then Rash brings up the prenup. What happens next is surprising because Mallorie agrees to move forward without a prenup if Rash gives her the time and space she needs when it comes to having children. And then there is Shea and Annabelle, where a family conversation about marriage suddenly turns into a discussion about Shea's will, inheritance, and what could happen to the family financially. So, there is a lot to unpack. Let's start with Debbie and Mido. The wedding is just around the corner, and Debbie is already dealing with tension surrounding her relationship. The night before the wedding, Mido is getting ready in front of the mirror, while Debbie returns from spending time with her friends. But Debbie does not seem happy. She tells Mido that her friends were not very supportive of the relationship. She also tells him that it would have meant a lot if he had taken the time to speak with them before the wedding. For Debbie, this clearly matters. These are people who are close to her, and she wanted Mido to make an effort to connect with them before becoming her husband. But Mido does not seem interested in revisiting the situation. He basically tells Debbie that he will not be seeing her friends again. Then Debbie brings up something even more important. Her son might not be able to make it to the wedding because of work. And that immediately changes the mood. Debbie tells Mido that she really needs her son to be there. Mido, however, is focused on getting married. He reminds Debbie that they do not have much time and that the wedding needs to happen. But Debbie is not willing to compromise. She tells him that she does not want to get married without her son there. Mido is shocked because, from his perspective, the wedding plans are already in place. But for Debbie, having her son there is extremely important. She is not willing to simply go through with the wedding and pretend everything is fine. Eventually, Debbie receives the phone call she has been waiting for. Her son Kaden confirms that he will be able to attend the wedding. Debbie is thrilled, her son is coming, and the wedding can continue. But now Mido has another important situation to deal with. He is finally going to meet Kaden. When Kaden arrives, Debbie is clearly happy to see him. She immediately shows him her ring and starts talking about the wedding. Kaden then asks Mido about the proposal. Mido explains that he essentially played a prank on Debbie. He made her believe that he was breaking up with her, watched her become emotional, and then surprised her with the ring. Mido tells the story as though it is a funny memory, but Kaden seems much more cautious. He listens to everything, and then the conversation moves towards something much more serious. Kaden wants to know what Mido plans to do after the wedding. Mido says he wants to pursue acting. That immediately raises some practical questions. Acting is a difficult industry, and success is never guaranteed. Kaden understands that Mido has a dream, but he also wants to know how Mido plans to support his mother. Kaden basically explains that there is nothing wrong with following your passion, but you still have to pay your bills. His point is that someone can work a regular job to provide financial stability while pursuing their passion on the side. But Mido does not seem interested in taking that approach. He wants acting to become his career. He also talks about music, producing music videos, and putting his work on YouTube. So Mido clearly has big ambitions. But Kaden's concern is not whether Mido has dreams. His concern is whether those dreams will provide enough stability for Debbie. That is an important distinction. Then Kaden asks Mido directly if he can promise to take care of Debbie. Mido reassures him and says there is nothing to worry about. He even tells Kaden that he is his brother and best friend now. The statement is clearly intended to make Kaden feel comfortable, but the relationship is obviously more complicated than that. Kaden is Debbie's son, and naturally, he wants to make sure his mother is going to be okay. He has every reason to ask questions about the man who is about to become his stepfather. For Debbie, this relationship may represent love and a new beginning. But for her children, there may be additional concerns about the future, financial stability, and whether Mido's plans are realistic, and that is something that could become even more important after the wedding. Now let's move over to Shea and Annabelle. Annabelle is meeting another important member of Shea's family, his daughter Madison. At first, things actually go surprisingly well. Annabelle admits that she was nervous about meeting Madison. Madison says she had heard about some of the family drama, but she also wants to have a good relationship with Annabelle. The two women talk, connect, and eventually hug. For a moment, everything seems positive, but later that night, the mood changes completely. Everyone is sitting around the fire when Shea's daughters Allison and Abigail bring up the subject of his will. Yes, his will, and they bring it up while Annabelle is sitting right there. The daughters want to know how the marriage could affect the children and grandchildren. They are thinking about the future and what could happen to the family financially, but obviously, this is an extremely uncomfortable conversation to have with someone who is about to marry their father. The subject of inheritance is never easy. Marriage can change financial arrangements, property ownership, estate planning, and other family responsibilities, so it is understandable that adult children might have questions, but the timing makes everything awkward. Annabelle is right there, listening to the conversation, and the daughters seem concerned about what the marriage could mean for their own financial future. Shea responds by essentially saying that decisions about the marriage and finances belong between him and his wife. The daughters do not seem particularly happy with that answer. Annabelle, meanwhile, stays quiet, and honestly, that was probably the safest response in that moment, because this conversation could easily have turned into a much bigger argument. There is no way to know exactly what the daughters intended. Maybe they simply wanted reassurance about the future. Maybe they were genuinely concerned about the family, but the conversation certainly exposed some financial tension. And whenever marriage and inheritance are discussed at the same time, emotions can get complicated very quickly. Now, let's talk about Mallorie and Rash. Their storyline has become especially interesting because they are dealing with two major marriage issues at the same time. Children and money. Mallorie takes Rash out on a boat, and initially, the moment feels romantic and emotional. Rash is feeling nostalgic and missing home, but eventually, they return to one of their biggest disagreements. Having children. Rash wants to become a father. Mallorie is not ready, and Mallorie makes something very important clear. She is not necessarily saying that she never wants children. She is saying that she does not want to have a child right now. She wants time. She wants to enjoy her marriage and her life with Rash before making such a huge decision. Mallorie explains that if Rash continues pushing her about having children, it could actually make her pull further away from the idea. She tells him that she could potentially revisit the subject in 2 or 3 years. That is important because it means the door is not completely closed. She is asking for patience. She wants the decision to happen when she is emotionally ready instead of feeling pressured. But then Rash brings up another major issue, the prenup. He asks whether he still has to sign it. And Mallorie gives him an answer that changes the situation completely. She says that if Rash gives her the time and space she wants regarding children, then she is willing to move forward without the prenup. Rash appears to be happy with that decision. But this is where things become complicated. Mallorie originally wanted the prenup for a reason. She wanted to protect the property and financial assets she had before the marriage. She also wanted to protect money connected to her own future financial needs. So giving up the prenup is not a small decision. It could have significant financial consequences depending on their circumstances and the laws that apply to their marriage. And that raises an important question. Is Mallorie removing the prenup because she genuinely changed her mind? Or is she doing it because she is afraid that Rash will leave if she does not give him what he wants? Only Mallorie knows the real answer, but the timing is certainly interesting. Rash wants children. Mallorie wants more time. Rash does not want the prenup. Mallorie agrees to drop it if Rash stops pressuring her about having children. That means two of the biggest issues couples face before marriage are now connected. And that can create a very complicated situation. Children and finances are both subjects that couples should discuss honestly before getting married. You do not have to agree on everything immediately, but both people should feel comfortable with the decisions being made. A wedding does not automatically solve disagreements. In fact, marriage can make those disagreements even more important. So the biggest question for Mallorie may not simply be whether she loves Rash. The bigger question is whether she feels comfortable making these major decisions right now, because once the wedding happens, changing certain decisions may become much more complicated. Now we have Thomas and Paula. Their wedding is only days away. But Paula seems more uncertain than ever. She admits that she needs more time to figure out whether marriage is actually the right decision. The problem is that they do not have much time left. Their 90-day period is almost over. Paula goes wedding dress shopping with her family, but she does not tell her mother about all of her doubts. She does not want to worry her. She is trying to keep things together while privately questioning whether she is ready to get married. Meanwhile, Thomas is also having serious concerns. He talks to his friend about their financial situation and admits that he is uncomfortable with how much money is being spent. He is also worried about their plans to share a bank account and eventually have a mortgage together. Thomas is beginning to realize that he and Paula may have very different attitudes toward money, and that can be a major issue in a marriage. You do not have to have identical personalities or identical spending habits, but you need to understand each other's financial expectations. Thomas is worried that their different approaches to money could create problems after the wedding. He is also uncomfortable with how much Paula has already spent on wedding-related items. And now he is beginning to question whether they are actually compatible. Paula is questioning the marriage. Thomas is questioning the relationship. That is not exactly the position you want to be in just days before a wedding. The preview for the next episode appears to suggest that a breakup could be coming, but we have to be careful with previews. Reality television previews are designed to create suspense, so even if the footage looks like a breakup, we cannot automatically assume that the relationship is officially over. It could be a real breakup, it could be a major argument, or it could simply be editing designed to make viewers believe something bigger is about to happen. We will have to wait and see. And finally, there is another interesting development involving Rash and Mallorie. According to the discussion in the source material, fans have noticed similarities between the background scene during Rash's social media activity and the background scene when Mallorie appeared on a podcast. A particular piece of artwork appeared to be similar, which led some viewers to speculate that Rash and Mallorie may have been in the same living space. That created even more questions about their current relationship status. There has also been online discussion about Rash interacting with women during TikTok live sessions, including moments that viewers interpreted as flirting, but this is where we need to separate observation from confirmation. Social media can provide clues, but a clue is not the same thing as an official confirmation. Unless Rash or Mallorie directly confirms what is happening, viewers should treat those online developments as speculation rather than established fact. Still, fans are clearly watching very closely. And considering everything happening between Rash and Mallorie, the disagreement about children, the prenup, and their future together, their relationship remains one of the biggest storylines to watch. So there you have it. Debbie's wedding nearly hits a major roadblock because she refuses to get married without her son. Mido finally meets Kaden and has to answer questions about his career plans and whether he can provide stability for Debbie. Shea's daughters bring up his will and inheritance, while Annabelle is sitting right there, creating one of the most uncomfortable family conversations of the episode. Mallorie makes a huge decision about the prenup, while asking Rash to give her more time when it comes to having children. And Thomas and Paula are heading toward their wedding with both of them questioning whether they are truly ready for marriage. There are still so many questions. Will Debbie and Mido actually build the stable future they want? Will Kaden eventually feel comfortable with Mido as his stepfather? Will Mallorie regret giving up the prenup? Will Rash respect her decision to wait before having children? Will Shea's daughters accept his decisions about marriage and his financial